Hello, this is astrologer coach Sonja Francis, and this is another members only full moon video because we have another full moon coming up on Sunday, August 26th at 7:56 a.m. East Coast time, the US, which is 12:56 p.m. London time right now, British summer time. So the sun opposes the moon at 3 degrees of Pisces with this full moon. And so we have this creative, free-flowing Pisces energy making an opposition to the sun in detail-oriented, practical Virgo. Now, with this full moon, we are coming to the end of eclipse season, which means that our consciousness upgrades are now complete. And we are therefore ready for the next level of our evolution. So the eclipse energies can start to be unfolding and we can move into that next level of where we're going soul-wise. So congratulations, everybody. We're ready to move forward. And let's talk a little bit about the Virgo-Pisces polarity so we can get a sense for what this full moon is all about for the next 2 weeks. Now, the Virgo-Pisces polarity has to do with our ability to connect the head with the heart, logic with intuition, and matter with spirit. And so the question here really is, how do you integrate Pisces and Virgo? How do you connect these polar opposites, right? Because they sound very different. So, and it may seem like a challenging question, right? Because, Virgo, of course, is so detail-oriented and analytical in its understanding. And Pisces, on the other hand, has this huge contrast of being, open-hearted and allowing for everything to be, even if it seems completely paradoxical to the mind, and the mind can't quite understand it. And so the thing is, Pisces operates on an energetic level, right? It's not operating on the mind level. It operates on the sensing level. So energy is everywhere and everything is energy, right? So on an energetic level, there is no separation. Everything is interconnected, and Pisces gets that, and Pisces understands that. So, and we do need both. We need the logical side that Virgo provides, and we need the creative sensing side that Pisces provides. So we need both the left and the right brain. We need that to be whole, and to be operating fully and be fully functioning. So one of the things you can ask yourself with this full moon is, what if nothing and no one was separate? Appearing to be different, yes, but not separate. And just remember, what I just said about the energetic level, how when we think about energy, that everything is energy. Right? No matter what it appears to look like on the physical level, right? It's still deep down, it's all energy. Now, the mind acts like a filtering mechanism that helps us to focus and function more efficiently. And I mean, that's what Virgo is really all about, right? It's all about efficiency, right? So Virgo analyzes, right? And Pisces feels and senses. Now, Virgo seeks physical wholeness, and Pisces reminds us of a greater wholeness, a spiritual wholeness, energetic wholeness, our interconnectedness with all of life, the allowing of all mysteries of life, right? Now, to be at its best, Virgo aims for practical applications and to be of service, while Pisces learns to listen to its inner intuitive guidance above else, and also wants to use its imagination to bring love and light into this world, into this physical world that we live in, and to kind of like sprinkle mystery fairy dust all over the place and just kind of create more of a paradise on earth. That's really what Pisces wants. That's why Pisces people are often very spiritual, often very creative, and often very sort of like oriented towards bringing love and beauty, like in a holistic sense to the world, right? Now, when these two archetypes are balanced within ourselves, because we each have both of these sign somewhere in our chart, right? So when these two planets are balanced within ourselves, we discern without judgment. We serve with an open heart. And we improve our daily lives without getting hung up on timing or perfection, right? And so bringing love and compassion to all of life's apparent curveballs is part of the gifts that balance of Virgo and Pisces can give us. Now, that said, let's also talk a little bit about the shadow sides of both of these signs, only because this is a full moon. And as we know, for those of you who've watched my full moon videos more often already, you know that the full moon brings up awareness, right? So, but we're also becoming aware of the more denser side of those signs, not just of the lighter side of these signs. We're also getting more aware of the shadow components. So Virgo's shadow side is self-deprecation and judgment. And the latter really creates separation from others and a split within ourselves very often. So it really closes our heart and limits our ability to learn, which is interesting considering that Virgo really likes to learn things and likes to get better at stuff, right? So when we go into judgment too much with the Virgo energy, we're really kind of going counter to what the sign really desires on its highest vibration or on its lightest vibration, right? Now, judgment also keeps us stuck in duality, right? Because the mind tends to think in duality, right? Hot, cold, right, wrong, And so when we get stuck in duality, we tend to defend and justify our position, or we shame other people because they have another position or the wrong position, right? So when we come from this place of judgment, we really don't leave any room for mistakes. And we have no spaciousness in our lives, right? Everything sort of like becomes very narrow and very like it has to be this way or it has to be perfect. So judgment really gives us sort of like it makes life more dense, right? Now ask yourself here, what if I did 5% less perfection in my life and 5% more process of improvements? So if we focused more on improvement, right, the process of improvement, and really the key word here is process, right, that it's not just about improvement, it's a process. It's something that happens over time, right? And could I be of service and still keep learning? Could I help others? Could I be of service to other people or to something in my life while I still keep learning something about what I'm being in service to, right? And what if it were okay if I didn't know everything 100%? And that's a very strong Virgo question because, for those of you who have strong Virgo qualities in your chart, you will know that there is a tendency to want to have all your ducks in a row before you even start something, before you even do something, or before you even decide that you want to be of service. You think you need to have all your ducks in a row. But what if we were okay if we didn't know everything 100%? And we could just be of service and still keep learning. I mean, that's being in process, right? And really, the highest or the lightest vibration of Virgo is understanding that everything is a process, right? That it's not about just, this is it and we stop there. Virgo is a mutable sign. It wants to be moving and wants to be constantly, gaining something and going to the next place, right? So how might making mistakes be beneficial to me? Because of course, if you have a strong Virgo component in your chart, you may know that, making mistakes is something that you might have some aversion towards, right? Or it might be something that just you weren't allowed to do growing up. It could be part of your conditioning, right? So how might making mistakes be beneficial to me? Think about that. And this is a great question to really just meditate on or journal on or just sit with, and allow yourself to really let the answers come to you, rather than trying to make your mind find the answers or the solution to that question, to just let yourself be open and receptive towards receiving the answer to that question. It's a really great question. And then a follow-up question to that is, what if I celebrated mistakes as stepping stones to a better life? And I know, this sounds a little bit like, well, why would that make my life better if I keep making mistakes, right? But if you think of it from the place of that life is a process, right? If you think of it from that perspective, then every single mistake is part of that process. And it's part of the learning. And it's part of the, understanding things a little bit better the next time around. So each mistake is so valuable that we make. There's great value in actually allowing ourselves to make mistakes, right? So what if I celebrated all of my mistakes as stepping stones to a better life, right? So I think that's a phenomenal question, right, to just kind of be with. And then I want you to just kind of observe, like in your day-to-day, does my inner dialogue observe and discern what is useful versus unproductive? So basically, what works in my life and what doesn't work in my life? Or does my inner dialogue label things as good or bad, right or wrong? And this is really something that this could be like a process, right? You don't want to be just doing that once, but just, keep checking in with your inner dialogue and keep observing it and see, what goes on, what's my programming, what's my conditioning in that regard? And is it possible for me to shift more into categorizing things as useful and unproductive, or as this works for me and this doesn't work for me, rather than saying this is good or this is bad, this is right or this is wrong, right? So this is a sort of like something you can do over the next 2 weeks for sure. Just this observation. Now, you could say that Pisces is the antidote to judgment. Because at its lightest vibration, Pisces understands that we are all souls in various states of development with different paths in this particular body, in this world, And so we're all love at the core, and everything is ultimately an expression or variation of love, right? It's just a different vibrational love. Each expression has a different vibration, but it's all at the core still love. Now, the shadow side of Pisces, because obviously we want to take a look at that too, the shadow side of Pisces is a lack of boundaries, escapism of various sorts. And I want to talk a little bit about that because, when we hear escapism, it sounds like, okay, we're not wanting to be with something. But what we really want to understand with the Pisces energy is that the reason why Pisces escapes or why we tend to escape in that area of our lives, because we all have it somewhere, right? Even if you're not a Pisces, you have it somewhere in your chart. Now, the reason why we want to escape sometimes is because in that area of life, or whatever planet we have in that sign, we tend to be highly sensitive and we feel everything. And so we can sometimes become overwhelmed because there's so much sensing and feeling going on. And so that is what creates the wanting to escape, is this overwhelm, right? And then the other part with Pisces is going into victimization. And that stems from resignation, or from passivity, or from uncertainty, not knowing, what is my next step, or what do I need, maybe there are some things that are missing for me to understand, right? So it leads to asking the question, why is this happening to me? But this is coming up, this victimization is coming up because we don't have all the information that we need yet. And we're not actively pursuing having the information, right? So there's sort of like a resignation there with that Pisces energy. So it's important to understand where these, where the escapism and where the victimhood comes from. Sorry about that. So you can ask yourself here, what if the way out of overwhelm was simply the first small step towards what this now moment is calling for? So we really want to just have a little bit more clarity, right? When we feel overwhelmed, we want to allow ourselves to just go, okay, what's one little thing I could do right now? Or what's one little thing I could write down that would help me to get to the next place, right? So we want to kind of like, the overwhelm feels so big that we want to kind of zoom in, right? Which is what Virgo does, right? Zooms in. Now, the other thing we could ask ourselves is, do I perhaps need more information, right? And that's, I already talked about that. But that's a great question, right? And could I allow for more answers to come through? And of course, that's sort of like the connection between Pisces and Virgo is like this, like, let the answers come through. It's kind of what we're doing with my videos, right? When I ask these questions and I'm saying to you, like, you don't have to answer these questions with your mind. Let the answers come through you. Let the answers come to you. Now, if you feel confused by what you're sensing or feeling, which also can happen with the Pisces energy, right? Simply ask yourself, is what I'm sensing or feeling, is it mine? Or is it someone else's? Very powerful. And the reason why this is very important and very powerful is because Pisces, because it's so tapped into the energy field of everything, it is literally connected with everything around it. And so sometimes we feel something that is not ours, that somebody else is feeling. But because we're so tapped into the energy field and all this energy is just kind of like flowing around. So you can see how, Pisces really needs to kind of ask some very concrete questions for itself so that it can get out of some of the overwhelm or the immensity of the energy field that it connects with and that it merges with very often, right? So as you may have guessed, the remedy for the Pisces shadow is the lighter vibration of Virgo, which I kind of mentioned already a little bit. And so the ability to focus, really focus in and zoom in and hone in on what works versus what doesn't work, the ability to make practical choices, right? The best use of our daily engagements and taking care of our physical well-being. This is very important to Pisces, to be able to really take care of your physical well-being so you're not floundering around. Now, when the Pisces and Virgo energies are integrated with each other, we marry a clear, observant mind with a compassionate and loving heart. And I mean, that's really powerful, right? I mean, I think that's something that really, it's sort of like a gift to be able to do that, really, right? So in other words, a mind that serves in partnership with our intuitive sensing, right? So it's really, the mind is in service to the energy field that we're tapping into intuitively. So you can ask yourself here, what tools might shift my view of reality from duality, which is the mind activity, to unity, which is the, energy fields. From separation to oneness, from either or to both end from mind activity of wanting to understand something and know something to the heart activity of actually understanding it, from sort of like a, yeah, I get it, right? From like a compassionate place. So could I start this process with myself and move further out from there? And that is a very important question, this last question, because, you know, we need to start here, because that's where we have control, that's where we have say. This is, you know, this is a really good starting point right here, right? If we can get to bring the head closer to the heart, right within ourselves, then experiencing that out in the world is going to be quite easy, right? So could I start this process with myself and move further out from there? So there's some aspects, of course, with this full moon chart as well that we want to talk about. And one of them is like this beautiful kite configuration, which doesn't happen very often. Now, a kite configuration is 2 sextiles and a grand trine. Now, we have the moon sextiling Saturn in Capricorn and Uranus in Taurus. So there's 2 sextiles with the moon. And then we have the sun in Virgo making a trine to Saturn and Uranus. So you can see how this creates sort of like a grand earth trine with the sun in Virgo. And so with a kite configuration, what's important is that we always want to look at the planet that connects to the 2 sextiles, because that's the planet that points to our opportunity for forward movement and growth. And so in this case, with this particular kite, it's the moon in Pisces. So what you can ask yourself here is, how might a compassionate heart help me tap into my inner genius or my unique sense of self, right? Moon is making a sextile to Uranus in Taurus. And could consciously connecting to my intuitive self support personal breakthroughs? Right? So Uranus is all about breakthroughs, right? But if we want to integrate the moon here, right, it's all about the intuitive self. So could consciously connecting to my intuitive self support personal breakthroughs? Now, what if my imagination was the very thing that supported me in effortlessly reaching my long-term goals? Remember that Pisces is connected to imagination. So what if my imagination was the very thing that supported me in effortlessly reaching my long-term goals? Or simply some additional quiet me time? Because again, Pisces, the moon in Pisces is also about quiet me time, going within, right? And the long-term goals, that's connected to Saturn in Capricorn, right? So we have the moon making a sextile to Saturn in Capricorn. Now, there's a couple of more questions, but before I go into them, I just want to say, with all these coaching questions, they are there to inspire you and to give you some fuel to use during the next 2 weeks in your journaling, in your meditations, just in your day-to-day, like just allowing yourself to think back on those questions. You do not need to use all of the questions, okay? That's very important to remember with these videos. Like, I'm asking a lot of questions, but use what really resonates with you. You don't have to use all the questions. Really just, you will feel it. You will feel when a question really pops for you. You'll feel something and you'll be like, that's the question I need to write down or I need to remember. And also remember that all the questions are also available via the weekly forecasts too, right? So when I post the weekly forecasts on Sunday evening for that week, you just have to go to the day of the full moon and you get all your coaching questions there as well, okay? So just so you have it in writing as well. Now, what might be possible if I trusted the timing of everything that is currently unfolding? Because there's so much going on, right? There's so much inner inner unfolding that we're experiencing, or that we especially have been experiencing with eclipse season, right? But now that eclipse season is over, what might be possible if I trusted the timing of everything that is currently unfolding? And what if acceptance was key to manifesting my goals? And what if the same was true when it comes to taking care of my daily routines or my health routines? And so the last question that I'm going to ask here, and this is a really, really powerful and very important one. It's actually a question that I got from my coach that I work with on a weekly basis. What if accepting my current limitations were the perfect starting point? I think this is a really, really great question because, very often we run away from our limitations. We wanna fix them. We think that there's something wrong with us because there are limitations. But what if accepting my current limitations were the perfect starting point for me to get to the next place? I think that's a really, really powerful question, right? I really love that question. Now, another aspect that we want to mention in this full moon chart is Neptune, which is the modern ruler of Pisces, which is currently in its own sign, and it's making a quincunx to Mercury, the ruler of Virgo. So we have the ruler of the moon making an aspect to the ruler of the sun, right? Neptune, Mercury. So this indicates some inner struggles or adjustments that we're going to have to make for the next 2 weeks. So there's some kind of discomfort that we're experiencing, or some kind of like, this doesn't quite fit, right? There's sort of like this sense of this doesn't quite fit. So we may feel a little bit confused at times because things are not quite fitting. And so as we're feeling an internal pull in some very different directions, which, with the Neptune in Pisces, it would be going within, slowing things down, getting quiet, right? All that lovely Pisces Neptune energy. Versus that Mercury in Leo, which is expressing ourselves full out in the world with others and playfully connecting from the heart, right? That's very different dynamic, right? As you can see. So honesty is really crucial here. Right? Honesty about what's really going on with ourselves. So an inner awareness is really going to be supportive. Self-honesty is going to be supportive. And authenticity is going to be supportive with this aspect for the next 2 weeks. And what you can ask yourself is, what am I sensing? What am I intuiting? What asks to be expressed, lived, created? And where does the inner experience of love, right, represented by Pisces, that's sort of like an inner connection to love, the spiritual, the universal love, right? So where does the inner experience of love and connectedness meet the outer, right? Which is more like the Leo sense of love is more like an outer experience of love. So where do they meet? And how could I learn more about self-love? And what if I also loved the world as if it was a reflection of my heart and soul? And that is a very powerful question. And I really want you to actually sit with that question for a moment, because I think that's the kind of question that, if you let it really sink in, that question has a lot of layers to it. Right? What if I also loved the world, like the outside of me, as if it was a reflection of my heart and soul? I think that's a really great question. Now, Mercury's in Leo, as I said, right? And will be retrograde until August 19th. And then, after August 19th, it's in its shadow phase until September 2nd. Now, we talk about all of this in more detail in the weekly forecasts, right? So feel free to read up on that. But just for this video, I want to say we're definitely invited to share our insights about joy and self-expression with others, and follow through on what we've learned in the past 3 weeks when Mercury was retrograde, right? When it was up until August 19th, when it was retrograde. So ask yourself here with this Mercury placement, what needs to be addressed now around self-expression or joy? And if every thought that I have either added or subtracted from my ability to experience joy, what would I say more to myself? And what would I say less? And that, I think, that is just really fantastic to observe, right? Because if you can observe that with yourself, right, then you can really start to shift, how you connect more with your inner joy and how you really tune into that a little bit more, If every thought either added or subtracted from our ability to experience joy, what would I say to myself? Or what would I say less to myself? I think that's really fantastic. Now, of course, Leo is all about gratitude. So you can always ask yourself, what am I grateful for? Right? If I had to choose something, what would I choose to celebrate about myself? And what has come up or been processed in the last 3 weeks in regards to all of the things that we just mentioned? Because there's clearly some kind of processing that has been going on, an internal processing, where we've been really connecting to that Leo energy from within. And in particular, like how we, our inner dialogue, how we communicate something, how we say something, why we say it, and what that has to do with our inner joy, right? Now, there's let me just see how many more aspects. So there's two more things that I want to talk about. The Sun in Virgo makes a Quincunx to Chiron in Aries. And it's sort of like a white Quincunx, but I still wanted to include it in the full moon reading because the Sun, is such an important part of the full moon. And so it's very strong. It's a strong energy in the full moon chart. So I wanted to give it maybe a little bit more of a larger orb than I normally would. But this Quincunx is another aspect that operates more on an internal level and is, what I talked about earlier with the Quincunx between Neptune and Mercury. There's something internal that feels like a little bit like a discomfort feeling or like a misfit, right? And it feels a little bit uneasy or awkward. And so because of that, we may feel that our self-confidence is dropping. And that we may want to, hide out a little bit and not quite be fully present with other people. And so this in turn leaves us feeling sometimes guilty or ashamed. So we want to kind of observe that type of, feeling or behavior or even just thought patterns that are coming up around that. And, just ask yourself, what if I allowed myself to be fully human rather than trying to be superhuman? Oh my God. And I think that's such a great question because, the Sun is in Virgo, right? And of course, the Sun in Virgo always wants to be superhuman, always wants to be perfect, right? So what if I allowed myself to be fully human rather than trying to be superhuman? And it sounds almost like, there's such a distinction there, right? But if you don't listen to it carefully, it's almost like, oh, that's the same thing. But it's not. There's a huge distinction, right, between fully human and superhuman. And what would kindness do? And that's always a great question for any Virgo energy, to ask is like, what would kindness do? So if you have a lot of Virgo in your chart, please use this on a daily basis for yourself. What would kindness do right now? And what if I gave 5% more love and understanding to my inner wounds or insecurities around what true masculinity or femininity looks like? And that is really connected to the Chiron energy in Aries, right? Because Chiron in Aries is all about our wounding, and in particular, our wounding around what we identify with, how we identify as a human being. And so, this could be around our masculinity or femininity or lack thereof, on both sides, right? So we're really getting a chance to kind of like, with this aspect, to just hone in a little bit more on like, okay, how can we bring a little bit of love or a lot of love and understanding to my inner wounds or insecurity around what true masculinity or femininity looks like. Because we all have these concepts, right? We have a lot of concepts around this is masculine and this is feminine. But what does that really mean? I mean, either way, we have sort of like a gender, right? We have a physical body that represents a particular gender. But within that gender, whatever masculinity or femininity means, it just means that to you personally, right? So there is no, right way to be masculine or no right way to be feminine. That's just sort of an assumption that we have, or a conditioning. It's a conditioning that we really have, right, around masculinity and femininity. So that's a great question, right, to kind of ponder and be with. And what have I been avoiding or rejecting about myself or about life? There's something with that Chiron. There's sort of like a, something feels like we're rejecting something about ourselves. Or we're not happy with, right? And so where have I been trying to fix myself? Because whenever there's a trait that we're not happy with, the first thing we do, and this is a very human reaction, obviously, is, oh, let me fix that. That's not okay that I'm this way. Let me fix that. And very often it can be around the feeling body, because we're so conditioned not to have feelings or not to have certain feelings that, when we have certain feelings show up, it's like, oh, let me fix that. I don't want to have that feeling, right? Or I don't want to be labeled as someone who has that feeling. But feelings are just feelings, right? We all have them, and we all have all of them. There's a huge variety of them, and they just come up when they come up. Now, what if I were to bring just 5% more love to all those areas in my life? And then just remember that love is the most powerful healing force there is. So as best as you can, harness the energy of love, self-compassion, gratitude, self-forgiveness, right? These are really, really powerful things to harness. And what's more, aim them all towards yourself, first and foremost, because this is where it begins. This is where the work begins, is with ourselves, because what you do for yourself always has a ripple effect that will be felt by other people. And that comes back to that Pisces of like, we are all connected. We're all interconnected on an energetic field. We're all, and that's the ripple effect, that energy that ripples out from you, whether that's heart energy or mind energy or, just physical energy, whatever it may be, whatever the energy is, it has a ripple effect, right? Now, the last thing I want to talk about is Mars, because Mars in this full moon chart is stationing at the time of the full moon and comes to a halt at 28.5 degrees of Capricorn, approximately 26 hours after the full moon becomes exact. And so it's very strong. That station is extremely strong at the time of the full moon. Mars is ending its 2 months retrograde phase on August 27th. And so this energy is just so heightened, that Mars energy. Whenever a planet is almost coming to a halt, it's like, it's vibrating. That energy is like, whew, feels very strong. Now, once Mars goes direct on August 27th, we slowly shift our focus back towards the outer world. And we may also want to start taking actions on our solar eclipse intentions. So again, wait until the 27th or the 28th, kind of take actions on the intentions that you've been setting 48 hours after the solar eclipse became exact, right? Now ask yourself, what have I discovered about my inner masculine in the past 2 months? And what did I learn about being unattached? independent versus interdependent. What have I learned about that? What did I learn about my anger and my triggers? Because let's not forget that Mars placement is connected to Chiron, because Chiron is in Aries and Mars rules Aries, right? So Chiron and Mars are definitely connected right now. So what did I learn about my anger and my triggers in the last 2 months? And where might I go from here? Now that I've kind of like, been in that place for this long and have marinated in this place for so long, where do I go from here? Once it goes direct. And how do I apply my findings in concrete ways? What needs to be addressed with regards to being different and allowing for differences between me and others? And I think that's something that we've sort of like, kind of contemplated on for the last 2 months with Mars being mostly in Aquarius, right? Mostly retrograde in Aquarius. Even though it's going direct in Capricorn, but for the 2 months period, it was mostly in Aquarius. Now, in our next forecasting forum, we will talk about that particular station and also Mars going direct and what that all means in relationship to our own charts. But we will also talk about the Saturn station that also happens in Capricorn, because Saturn will go direct on September 6th and, will be stationing for a whole month, right? So, we'll talk about both of those things. So if you want to have a better understanding of what that means for you personally and how that's affecting you in your own chart, what areas of life are being affected, join me live on August 28th at 5 p.m. Eastern time, which is New York time, or 10 p.m. London time, or 2 p.m. Pacific time, which is LA time. Or if you can't make it at those times on that day, then sign up for my MP4 video presentation. That's also available. Now, please keep in mind that if you are already a star or superstar member, you will receive links for both of these things automatically via email. So you have to check your email. In the email, it will say, information for forecasting forum, or link to the MP4 video presentation, and that's where you can access that forum if you are already a star or superstar member. Now, if you're currently a universal member, feel free to join us for free every month by upgrading to star or superstar membership if that appeals. But if you just want to watch this one forecasting forum because that somehow interests you, then feel free to register at the regular fee. You can go to my homepage on astrologercoach.com, and just if you scroll down and look for the countdown of the monthly forecasting forum, there is a place where you can register. You just click on that, and then you can register for the forum. Now, a final note about this full moon is that, of course, it highlights the importance of developing and trusting our feminine energies represented by the moon in Pisces. And we're also invited to allow for the flow of things and letting go of distractive attachments and connections. So you can ask yourself, how can I grow and evolve in my relationships? Is there a relationship that I need to grow and evolve out of? Because maybe it's not, feeling empowering anymore. Maybe it used to be, but it's no longer, right? Now, as best as you can, stay grounded in love, not fear. I mean, this is always good advice, obviously. But we definitely want to stay flexible and open-minded. We want to nurture ourselves and make sure that we have everything we need to come from a place of inner strength and empowerment, rather than, disempowerment. And we want to remember, that each day, each moment, each breath that we take, we do have a choice. We always have choice. This is something that we were given. This is our divine right, is to have choice. So if we don't like what happens in our lives, rather than going into regret or placing blame on something or someone or ourselves, right? We can set the intention to choose differently the next time around. And, forgiveness is really powerful in those moments too, because, if we make a choice and the choice didn't work out, if it didn't work out the way we imagined it would, we need to forgive ourselves, because each moment, each now moment is a new moment to make a new choice. So forgiveness can be a really powerful tool, especially towards ourselves, to allow ourselves to start fresh, to really be present again, that, okay, now I'm making a new choice. And in this now moment, I'm making a new choice. And every moment can be a new choice. We just have to choose it, right? We have to do the choosing. So as best as you can, be kind and compassionate with yourself. Forgive yourself for having a human moment when you do, if that happens. And, this will really support your healing process as well. And really, healing happens best when we allow ourselves to be exactly where we are, even if it's not where we prefer to be. But if we just let ourselves be where we are and just be, it's okay. It's okay. I am where I am, and it's fine. This is my starting point. Doesn't mean you have to stay there, but this is my starting point. I'm accepting where I am. And just go from there. So for the next 2 weeks, as best as you can, trust your inner sensing, listen to your heart, surround yourself with caring, loving energy if you can, and just sift and sort and simply let go of whatever is cluttering your life, whatever is not feeling kind of like spacious. Create spaciousness for yourself. So ask yourself, what if the greatest gift I could give myself was the liberation of my heart energy? And what if I allowed my thinking to shift from I am separate to the experience of oneness? And might that let me tap into the energy field that surrounds me and others and everything, really, right? The energy field that surrounds everything. Now, if you do have an ascendant, a career point, or personal planets in 1 to 5 degrees of Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, or Sagittarius, then you're going to feel this full moon more strongly than others. But of course, as always with any new moon or full moon that I talk about, you want to take a look at your birth chart and just check and see where does that full moon land in your own birth chart. Where is 3 degrees of Pisces and Virgo? And look at the houses, look at the houses and see, where does that land? What areas of life are being impacted by this full moon for me personally? And what do they represent? And how can I create some balance or some integration between those two areas in my life? Now, before I end this video with a really beautiful quote that I have found that I really think resonates beautifully with this full moon energy, I just have a couple of announcements for my members. So hang in there, I think, and actually please listen to the announcements, because I think they're going to be really important for a lot of you. So first announcement is, if you have difficulty accessing any of the membership content, or you have questions about any of the membership functions, please email us right away at info@astrologercoach.com and just write members demo video in the subject line, and I will send you a very, very short video that will explain everything that you need to know. Now, also, second, please remember to pause and suspend your membership if one of your monthly payments is not going through. And you will know that it's not because you will receive an automated email from us that says your payment didn't go through. Because if you don't pause and suspend the membership right away, your membership might get canceled, and you might lose some of your membership functions, some of your bonuses, your membership bonuses. Right? So I don't want you to lose those bonuses. So just pause and suspend. And if you don't know how to do that, email us and get that members demo video, because that's being explained inside that video. Now, the other thing also is with credit cards. If you have a credit card connected to your membership account that pulls every month to take the payments out, if you need to change the card or the date of anything, it's important to just delete the card and add a new card, right? So you want to add a completely different card and delete the other one, because the system gets confused if there's 2 credit cards in the system or if there's an old card and a new card. So just start from scratch, delete, and put a new card. That I think will work best. I hope. We haven't experimented that far yet, but that's what I'm hoping. Now, if you want to have a monthly support system, and you want to learn more about yourself and astrology, or you just want to be supported in your process that you're currently in, check out the Superstar membership. How valuable would that kind of continuing support be for you, right? Now, if you're already a Superstar member, please watch out for the monthly membership bonus emails. It says membership bonus in the subject line of the email, so you can book your monthly sessions with me. Because that is your support, right? So I want you to make sure that you don't miss those. And if you have any issues with scheduling your monthly sessions, please always feel free to reach out to us. Just send an email to info@astrologercoach.com, or you can send an email to me, Sonja@astrologercoach.com, and I will always try and make stuff work if I can. Okay? Now, the Superstar membership is, if you're not a Superstar member yet, it is really the best value and has the most benefits for the relatively small fee you're spending each month. So if you're really looking for that support system, I just want to encourage you to check it out. First of all, because, there are high discounts right now. They're over 40% off from what they normally would be. Secondly, it's also going to be locked in for life, that fee, if you choose to become a Superstar member right now. So even if the prices go up, your price won't. And I think that's really valuable. And all the stuff you're getting a free reading every year. You're getting free monthly coaching sessions. You get access to the Soul-Based Basics course for free, which is 6 90-minute video presentations. So that's a huge course that really covers everything you need to know so you can read a birth chart. So it's a really fantastic course. Now you get multiple one-on-one tutoring sessions for free for every other astrology course that you purchase after the basics course. So you get support there as well in your studies if you want that. And lastly, you get a ton of discounts on additional readings, courses, retreats I offer, as well as everything that is already included in any of the other memberships, right? So, whatever, all the other stuff is there too. The weekly forecasts, all the videos, the monthly forecasting forums, and so on and so on. So you can see there's a lot, it's really a lot. It's tremendous value. So if that's something that resonates with you, look into it before the prices go up, okay? Now, I will leave you with this beautiful quote that I found from someone named Swami Beyondananda. He's the author of Driving Your Own Karma, and I chose it because it just resonates so beautifully with this Pisces Virgo energy. So here it goes. We're not here to earn God's love. We're here to spend it. And I think this is just, this quote is, to me, was so inspiring and affirming in regards to our own divine nature, right? Like that all this love, it's there, it's just already there. And so we're just, let it flow, let it go, put it out, let it be there for others to take, spend it, spend all the love that there is, because there's an abundance of love. It doesn't end. There's no limitation to how much love there is, because we are divine beings. So I wanted to leave you with that quote because I thought it was very powerful. So have a fantastic full moon, and I hope to be seeing most of you on August 28th for the next forecasting forum. And if not, then I'll be in touch with the weekly forecast and with the next new moon video in 2 weeks from now. Okay? All right. Have a good one. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Bye-bye.